Hi everyone, it's Robin and welcome back to Happy at Home. Today I am in my kitchen and I am planning to switch things up a little bit, and of course I wanted to share it with you, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So we have been in this house for about 15 years and the girls have basically grown up in this house. And I've always thought that it would be really fun to change out the dining or eating area in my kitchen into a seating area. But it's never been doable because the kids have always used the table for their craft projects, for doing homework, eating at, that sort of thing. Until about a couple weeks ago, I realized that the table in our kitchen was no longer being used for eating at. Instead, it's just been a dumping ground for everybody's bags and coats and, what have you. Just a dumping ground, and it's always looking cluttered, and it's always a source of frustration to get it cleaned up. So I thought it is high time to try out my idea of changing the space from an eating area into a seating area. So the thought process behind this is the fact that most of the time I am in the kitchen. Whether I'm cooking or doing dishes, cleaning, working on a project, editing videos, this is the room that I spend a lot of my time. So if I have a nice little cushy place for my family to come and sit down at, then I'm hoping that they will come hang out with me while I'm doing my stuff. So I can maybe get a little bit more of one-on-one time with each of my family members, because as my girls now are getting older and getting into those teen years, that one-on-one time is a lot more difficult to get with my girls and with my husband, just because there's so much more activities going on than when they were littler. So right now I am not going to go out and buy new furniture for the space. Instead, I am going to shop my house, bring in some furniture from different areas of my home, some different accessories that I already have, and see if I can't create something that I think is cozy. And this will sort of give us a little trial period to see if we like this idea for this space in the kitchen, or if we should switch it back to having, your typical table and chairs. So I am very excited to get started on this project. So let's jump right in. After first removing all the existing furniture, I had a nice clean slate to work with. So the first thing I did was move in this armchair, which I have had for years. The color on it obviously doesn't match what I'm going for, but I do have a slip cover which will work perfectly. I next moved in this other smaller armchair and put it on the opposite side of the room, and although the size is different, I think it will work out just fine. Between the two chairs, I decided to use this vintage typewriter table, which I think is super cool, and it was great to find a place to use it in the house. Next up was to add the slipcover to the armchair, which, as you will see shortly, I will struggle with for a while. I made this slipcover out of red and white ticking stripe years ago for this particular chair. It was the very first slipcover I ever made, and I'm so proud of it, and it still fits pretty well. It's not perfect, but it does the trick. I then turned my attention to decorating the shelf on the wall in the kitchen. I started by hanging these two framed quilt blocks, which I made a couple years ago, above the shelf. I didn't really know what I wanted to do on the shelf, so I just started adding some things. I knew I wanted to use a red and white color scheme with little pops of teal, but I didn't really have very much teal, so then I decided I would add a couple metal items as well. So I just kind of played around with what I had, until I came up with something that I liked. Here I'm adding a crock with a metal handle on it, and then to the other side I decided to add a pewter creamer. So that was the little touch of metal I decided to add to the space, and I think it works okay. I then added a set of glass salt and pepper shakers for a little sparkle. These I just recently found at the thrift store and I love them, and of course I wanted to use them somewhere in my kitchen, so this seemed like a good spot for them. To fill in the remaining empty spot, I chose these little teacups, which I bought last spring. They've got a little touch of pink and teal on them, so I thought that would work nicely. And then here I wasn't liking how it was looking because you couldn't really see the really cool handle on the creamer. So I switched the creamer and the salt and pepper shakers around. And I think that kind of showed off the handle a little bit more because there was something behind it so you can see it. And I don't know, I just thought it looked better. I don't know if it does or not, but I switched it up because I felt like it. Below the shelf, I wanted to hang this calendar that I found because it's got a lot of reds and the teals that I wanted to use. Plus it has birds and I love birds. So I needed to sort of make a hanging out of it. So I flipped it over to the back side and cut a dowel to size. I didn't want to make anything permanent, so I just folded the top edge down around the dowel and then used some straight pins from my sewing kit to just kind of hold it in place. Then I took some twine and tied it onto the dowel on both sides to create a hanger. To hang it, I decided to use a clear plastic wreath hanger from 3M. These are the kind that you can remove without damaging the walls. I love these because they kind of like just blend into the surroundings. And since I couldn't use the hooks that are already on the shelf, that looks kind of silly, I used that instead and just placed it on the back and then hung up the calendar. And I think it turned out well. I then moved on to the little table between the two chairs. I started by adding this cute little wicker basket, which I found at the thrift store, and then I added this glass vase and a little tin, which I found at a thrift store, followed by a trio of books, which did not want to stand up for me, so I just kind of left them there. And then I added this cute little white and yellow creamer, filled it with some decorative beads, and then I rearranged the books once again with the creamer there. I could finally get them to stand up the way I wanted them to, so that worked out nicely. And then finally I added this little bouquet of flowers, which I picked up at Michael's recently, which I think are so gorgeous. It's a combination of white, green, and yellow, and I think they are so pretty. And then in front of the table I used this old wood box, which I flipped upside down to hold this gorgeous bird cage, which I just bought at Michael's, and I absolutely love it. Inside the bird cage I put a small cake plate and then layered a little teeny tiny one from Target, I think, on top of it. Then I filled it in with candles, and then of course one final candle in the middle, and Raymond's trying to help me, and I think this will look so pretty in the nighttime, all glowing and beautiful, because the candles are all battery operated, which is awesome. Raymond's not quite so sure. Next, I wanted to add some throw pillows to the chairs, but Rayma has pretty much claimed the left chair as her own, so I added it around her. And then I added this big blanket basket in the corner just to add a little extra coziness to the space. And I finally pushed her out of there just so I could see if I liked the pillows, and I think they'll work nicely. And as soon as I got done, she was back up there. I decided to add this plant stand back into the corner. I don't remember at the very beginning I removed it from the room, but I think it'll work nicely in this spot next to the refrigerator. And finally, for this section of the room, I swapped out the pillows from where I put them before. I put the plain red one on the ticking stripe and the floral one on the white chair. I don't know why, but I just felt like this looked a little better, so I'm gonna go with that. The final little place to decorate is this little counter space below my cubby shelves. The cubby shelves will stay the same. They're already decorated in a red and white theme. So I added this blender, which I picked up recently. And then I also added this juicer. Between the two, I added a wicker tray and this crock filled with white tulips. And with that, I felt the space was complete. I would love to add a rug to ground the whole seating area, but since I'm shopping my house and I don't have a rug to use, for now, this will have to do. That is what I've done in my kitchen to create a cozy seating area using furniture and accessories, which I already had, and I am really liking how it turned out, and I am excited to find out if my family likes it as much as I did. Now, if this turns into being something, a permanent situation, I'll definitely probably look for some new chairs to use in this space, and I will also be changing the lighting, which I don't like. It came with the house. I tried to update it, and that was probably about 8 years ago, and it's still the same. So that is something that I definitely want to change out, is the light fixture over that space. But that can come in time. Right now it's just little baby steps to kind of give it a trial, see how we like this new setup for this space in our kitchen, which I am loving already, and we'll see what the family has to say. Regardless, it was fun to give this space a new little makeover. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I can't wait to find out what you guys think of this idea. Do you already have a space in your home that's sort of like this? Or if now that you've seen me do it, do you think it's a good idea and you want to sort of reproduce that look in your own home? So let me know down in the comments what you think of the general idea of having a seating area versus an eating area in your kitchen. And I would love to know. So let me know what you think of the idea and if you think it's going to work out for my family or not. So we shall see. Only time will tell. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with me. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. And I will see you again very soon in my next video. Bye now.